Hello and welcome to Fast Fables, Fable Security's webinar series. Here we are going for max impact in only 15 minutes, so super short. Today, let's welcome our guests. We have Fable's CPO and co-founder Sanny Liao, Fable product manager Kaushik Devireddy, and I'm Jamie Barnett. And our special guest today is Sean Coyne, who sits on our advisory board. And Sean is a tech exec and a cybersecurity expert who's led security teams at Uber, Dropbox, and Carta, and spends his time today advising specifically on how to architect and scale intelligence, AI-enabled systems for complex organizations. And even though we are on the clock, we are going to break the ice with a little question for Sean. Sean, if attackers had to fish you right now, what would be their easiest lure?
Well, like most people, I think the thing that would get my limbic system firing the most would be anything related to the economy or money. So, uh, jobs, investments, and probably cryptocurrency would probably be what's most likely to get someone to click, or I don't know, pictures of dogs.
I love it. Yeah. For me, it's dogs eating peanut butter. Yours is way too smart. Okay, let's get into it. Sandy and Kaushik, what are we introducing today?
Yeah, so today we're actually introducing the Fable behavior data lake. When Nicole and I started Fable, it's actually with the thesis that we should be able to use ethics science to move security behavior. And the not so secret ingredient behind why ethic is so effective at getting people to buy things, right, that you never thought you even wanted, was actually data, right? Collecting massive amounts of data to create like the hyper optimized ad for you, delivered just at the right time with the right content, frequency, everything to drive that purchase at the end. So we're actually taking that approach to security at Fable. So today we're actually really excited to announce the Fable Behavior Data Lake, which is the foundational data layer that actually powers how we use data to actually drive behavior change, identify high-risk groups of people, deploy personalized target interventions, and actually move the needle on human risk in the enterprise. So I'm going to hand over to Kaushik. Kaushik, can you actually tell us about some of the use cases and give us a demo of what we're doing with this data lake?
Totally, let's do it. We're super excited to announce this modern lakehouse architecture, and this isn't just a marketing announcement, right? This is in the product and available and empowering customers today. So the journey with Fable and starting to use and gain value from this lakehouse starts with our integrations. We spent a ton of time investing in push button integrations for all the tools in your stack, from HR all the way to IT and security. And the secret sauce isn't just the breadth of integrations we have or how deep we go integrating into each product a vendor offers. It's really how we pull and store all of this data in our lakehouse. With traditional systems of the past, like your SIM, you have all of your events, and then you have your relational databases for all your access, stateful, and posture type data. Fable kind of flips this all on its head, right? We take all of the raw data from all of these tools and store it in one place, all meshed together, not just so human operators in Fable gain value, but also the AI agents that sit on top of our lakehouse get to query all of this data in a seamless manner. So let's say you've plugged in a couple integrations with Fable. What do you get out of the box? Let's go ahead and dive into our human risk engine. The first thing Fable does is we start to organize your employees and humans into what we call cohorts. This is based on the exposure attributes we see, activity patterns, behaviors, and access. So it starts with something as simple as, hey, who are my IT admins? I can look at this by the privileged access they have to applications, right? And then maybe who are my money handlers? They really get targeted with fraud and BEC nowadays. I can determine this from their role, department, or access to like procurement and finance applications. But in that same view, I can also look at people's behavior. So really popular ones that customers like to look at today are, hey, which of my employees are installing suspicious browser extensions based on TI feeds that Fable has? Or the most popular, hey, which of my employees are uploading sensitive data to my Gen AI apps? Typically, this data lives in different systems. Employees who are uploading files is in one system. The sensitivity of those files is in my DSPM, another system. Fable's Lakehouse brings all of this together, so you have that converged view of risk. Okay, it's great I have all of these attributes, but let's actually take a real world example and see how our lakehouse is empowering customers today. I'm actually going to switch over to this news article that a lot of customers were sharing. We see this all over LinkedIn. This summer in 2025, we see this group, Shiny Hunters, really, using these targeted phishing campaigns against a lot of companies in this industry. And traditionally, with your old systems, either you're sending awareness to everybody at the company, all 10,000, 100,000 employees, that, hey, there's an attack going on. And to be quite frank, everyone's email inbox is flooded. Nobody's paying attention to this, right? Or you have to search through 10 different data systems to understand which of my employees may be at risk for this type of attack. With Fable, we have all this data in one place and an AI agent sitting on top. So I'm actually going to show you a demo of how you get to answer this question utilizing our AI agent and Converge Lakehouse. So I'm simply going to ask something like, hey, perform a quick analysis to discover which of my employees are most at risk for an attack like this one. Okay, great. Now, while this model is thinking, our AI agent's thinking, I'm going to kind of talk about like what it's doing, right? It needs to, one, read the article and understand, hey, what are the data points I need to look for in the Fable data lake? And two, it has to actually go and search through all of this data. And, as a security analyst, I might want to think about, okay, which of my employees have their phone numbers exposed online, right? That's how a phishing campaign starts. That's one piece of data. Number two, who has privileged access to Salesforce? That's the group that Shiny Hunters is targeting. So that's a separate access posture data living in a different system. Number three, who's most susceptible to phishing, right? Whether that's campaigns I've launched through Fable, or I see people clicking on malicious URLs in the wild, a third data system. And four, who has activity indicating a suspicious login or weak MFA. Tying all four pieces of this data together is exactly what our AI agent is super great at. And it's only possible because all of this data is living in a single lakehouse. So within a few minutes, I get this insight surfaced to me about, hey, I have 10 employees, most of them seem to be in my IT department, who are exhibiting these four pieces of data, right? Their access to Salesforce, their susceptibility to phishing, their exposure of their phone numbers online. And this, typically could take days to surface without the lakehouse bringing all the data together. Okay, it's great Fable gave me visibility into this with the lakehouse, but as Sanny mentioned, how do we actually address this and be proactive about reducing the risk? Fable has, a whole collection of awareness, and we stay on top of emerging threats. So with one simple click, I can actually launch this awareness campaign about Shiny Hunters and this specific attack to those 10 targeted employees. So in just a couple minutes, I've searched through all the data, pinpointed the riskiest individuals based on this emerging threat, and I'm able to proactively intervene and send out awareness. I think that's going to completely transform how people think about human risk and mature their program going forward. Awesome. Back to you, Jamie.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. For these last few minutes, I'd like to kick it over to Sean, who is our expert, and really understand, okay, so kind of two questions. Who, first off, is benefits from this? Who in the security team, and how? What kind of impact will it have, do you think? And then the second one is, how do they even look for this or test for this as they're, putting forth their requirements or doing a bake-off of human risk tools?
Oh, well, that's a big question, Jamie. Thank you. So I'd say the applications are broad and also deep. Let me start high level. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the 80/20 rule. In businesses, it goes that about 80% of the revenue comes from 20% of the customers. This is also true in crime in big cities. Of all the people committing crime, 20% are actually committing the majority of it in like an organized crime fashion. The rest of criminals are only committing about 20%. Well, this is true of risky behavior and policy violations in a company too. You've got a minority of employees that are actually cutting the most corners and taking on the most risk for the company, but figuring out who they are is extremely difficult. Unless they're actually running afoul of the system or people are noticing or it's actually resulting in incidents, it's very difficult to figure out who that 20% are. You can figure out who has the most access or who has the most sensitive data on their machine, but are they actually violating policy? In this case, if you're a chief compliance officer or a CISO, you can actually ask the Fable system, hey, who are my top 10 most risky employees by behavior, and then reach out to them specifically and address their behavior and why they're, constantly violating compliance. If you're the CFO or the CISO again, and you have a cybersecurity insurance package and you're judged on your risk, it's very difficult for you to show ROI on that compliance program you're putting on and actually show that, yes, we made everybody click through all this compliance training, and then a year later, we did it again, and our risk has gone down. It's really tough to actually prove that to your insurance providers, or prove the ROI for your compliance program. So with the Fable product, that becomes a lot easier. Hopefully, you can reduce your insurance premiums as well. Also, if you're an employee and maybe you're in customer service or finance and you're cutting a few corners because you need to do your job faster or whatever, if I am one of those employees and I get an email or a Slack notification within 12 hours of me doing something I shouldn't have done, then I know people are watching. Then I know the company's very serious about compliance and about proper behavior within the IT environment and not taking shortcuts. And I'm going to realize they take it seriously, so I need to take it seriously as well.
That makes perfect sense. How would you test for this, or how would you look for this as you're kind of looking out across various tools in the tool space?
Sure. So if I was interested in checking out the Fable system, or I wanted to create an RFP for it, first I would frame this as a strategic necessity, and it is. Human behavior, reducing the risk around human behavior has traditionally been a black box up to this point. This actually gives people in the seats where they're responsible for it, the CISO, CTO, compliance officers, this actually gives them insight into what the users and the employees are actually up to, and not just in a point in time kind of way, but over a whole period of time. You can build a profile about users' behavior in the aggregate. So I'd frame this as a strategic capability. Also tie it back to real world cases, human risk, insider threat, things like that. And ask the other vendors you're talking to, or put it into the RFP, does the other tools you're looking at, or just say the tool you want, needs to support real-time integration, needs to support integration from identity providers, so Okta, Active Directory, whatever. Integrate endpoint protection, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, all leading EDRs. Definitely integrate with HR systems, so Workday, Bamboo HR, anything like that. And then it's absolutely got to integrate with all of kind of the working space communications platforms, so Google Drive, Gmail, Slack, everything like that. And just another one off the top of my head, ask that it supports natural language processing instead of having to learn, a new query language. So those are just a few off the top of my head.
That's great. That's super helpful. Thank you. It looks like we have a couple questions. I want to be respectful of time. Our goal and one of our essentially design principles is to be brief. So we want to keep this at 15 minutes. We'll jot down these FAQs and shoot them out to anybody who attended. Or feel free to reach out to us. But Sanny and Kaushik, how can folks get their hands on this today?
I am muted. There we go. Well, the good news is that Fable actually is at a stage where, we think that this is like a brand new problem that can really be solved well if we partner with the right, forward-thinking people. So if you're not a customer yet, reach out to us on our website, request a demo so you can see the full solution for yourself. If you're already a customer and you want to get your hands on Fable, just let us know and we'll put you on the beta list.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to sign off. Thank you so much to our amazing participants, and especially to you, our amazing audience. And we'll see you next time at Fast Fables.
Ciao, ciao.